Okay, folks, good morning. I'll do a short recap of where we left off yesterday. Very productive day. So we finished up the first Sherman, and then I worked on two of them yesterday and get them both finished as well. And this is a plastic model by Armor Fast, and this is a Corgi toy basically. They had them in toy stores at the time when I got it, and it's funny, the computer gives them a shine. These aren't shiny at all, but extreme light that is being shown on them. And then this is also a toy, a Humorex, that actually came with a mine roller. And it can be attached or detached, which is actually why I left the little holes in the front of it. Normally I would fill those in, but I'm not going to in this case because I can attach this if needed for a scenario. And we doctored them up by adding antennas. Couldn't add one to here. I could have guessed epoxy one in there, but I'm going to leave it alone. This whole turret is die cast and extremely resistant to drilling into it. We're just going to leave it alone. And yeah, I think they turned out, I'm really happy with them. They look like I was hoping they would look. And we've got some bits here on the back. We added a separate commander figure from War Games Foundry. We got the painted 20mm figure in there. And you could tell the difference in scales here. This is the rather large 1/72 scale. And honestly, it's actually the one that's significantly less detail. And even with adding the stuff on it, it definitely has the least amount of detail. The Corgi model, which is this is what the one here on the end, which this is what it used to look like. I had two of these. They came like this. The details on the top of the turret are really amazing for a toy. I mean, honestly, these two look great. They've got shovels and stuff on there. I didn't have to build any of them on there. They just came that way. And I mean, the details on this turret really look nice. Really turned out nice. I'm really happy with that. But anyhow, we put them on stands, so it looks kind of like some of the environment, and added some shrubbery on there. They are magnetized, so if you put them in a metal pan, like I travel with most of my things, they shouldn't slide around, and it doesn't add much to thickness. So anyhow, this one has separate, the turret comes off. This one did not. I couldn't unscrew it, so I just said the hell with it, we'll just leave it screwed down. And this one is unscrewed. This one, when I go to paint it, I'm not going to unscrew the turret. It is a major pain in the butt to drill those things out, the rivets, and extremely dangerous, I might add. It's probably the most dangerous thing that I've done in the hobby, is ever try to do that. So anyhow, so where are we at when Shermanlandia? We still have a few more to do. And I ran into an interesting situation, and I'll talk about that as well. So we've got another one of these die cast ones to do. This M4. Oh, by the way, for those of you that are Sherman nuts, and this is just a standard M4. This is an M4a1, and this is an M4a3. So you can tell that this is a further progression because there's actually a hatch for the loader. This one just has a hatch for the commander, hatch for the commander, hatch for the loader, and the commander. So definitely designed, I think a year or two later, or whatever, and they added some of those improvements. So we have another M4a3 by Corgi. I'm not sure who makes this. These are the ones that I bought from the estate sale, and they're pre-made. And this is an M4a1 76, so it should be the same hull as this one. And it's scaled pretty close. It's scaled pretty close. Whoever made this one, it definitely made it look cast iron. It's definitely rough. See how this one's kind of smooth? This one is totally rough. And it's also a different version because the hatches are different. Now the interesting thing about this is that if you pull underneath, it almost looks like this was made as a plastic model, because the hatches almost look like you could open them. They almost look like you could open them. As a matter of fact, I'm going to press on it and see if it doesn't. Okay. I could probably get the commander's hatch to budge on that one. We're going to leave them alone. We don't want to be trashing things. Okay. So we've got those two to do. Wrong glasses. Don't put the readers on when you don't have the regular ones, or you'll never be able to find anything. Let's see what else we got there. That's Sherman's. Or that's Americans for that matter. We got 3 more die cast half tracks. This is exactly how they came. We have a 105 millimeter. It's 176 scale, looks like, so the 105 isn't that noticeable in barrel thickness. Got a couple of half tracks with mortars in them. And two more things. And that's it, right? That's it, that's American. Oh, this thing too. This behemoth. We got another one of those. We got this Hasegawa truck. It just needs to be glued together. Hasegawa truck, and I dropped this on the ground yesterday. This is and the 50 came loose. And it's laying around here somewhere. I'm not gonna stop my entire life for that. This one's extremely large. I think this is even bigger than 1/72. I could be wrong, but I believe this is an M4a3 Hull. With a 76 millimeter gun. So almost like Fury, except Fury has HVSS suspension. Easy 8 suspension. And then the only thing else we have is this guy, which I can't do anything with it. It's an armor fast. Good morning, Ian. This is an armor fast, but I'm missing the mantlet somewhere. So we're going to put this in reserve. We're not going to mess with this until we buy some British Shermans from Armor Fast that come with a 76mm turret option. They come with both, and I'm going to take one of the mountlets for the 75 and use it. So I believe it's the M4a2 pack that comes, also known as the Sherman 3. They use some of those in Normandy as well, but I may decide to do them in Italy. So this is what we have left, which looks like a lot, but if I just stayed home from work, I could knock out 2 tanks a day pretty easily. So then we come with a problem, which I'm not going to let it get me down. It's really not that much of a problem. It's a little hiccup. The color I've been using for this, I like Vallejo paints, but they seem to be kind of a pain in the ass for something. And it's about changing colors and doing stuff. And maybe their colors didn't change for a long time, and they're just changing them now. But now is when I'm using their stuff. That's a lot to paint. It is. It is, but it's pretty mindless. I'm really impressed the way that this turret turned out for... Man, I wish I could get some of the shine off of it. They're really not shiny at all. The turret on this vehicle is just exceptional. So whoever made the mold for that, kudos to those guys. Let's get rid of him. His neon green. There we go. Let's put a guy that looks a lot better. The basing. So the olive drab color I've been using is Brown Violet 887. And it's apparently not made anymore. This particular one. There's now a new 887 that's called US Olive Drab. I don't own it, because when I got these paints, it was a bit of 20 years ago. So I don't own it. I'm getting kind of low on this one. That's this color you see right here. This, and which is what I've been using as a base color. So I may vary some of these in color. I have this other color that's called US Olive Drab, and it's damn near the same color. So I may do one of these Shermans, a few of them, in this other color, just for variety. So, okay. First things first. Well, one thing that made things a lot easier was spray painting things black. So we're gonna, and you can see there's a variation in, this is almost like a Vietnam color. Very, very, very dark. It's darker than this. And these have more green than mine normally do. Okay, so what are we going to do? Armor Fast goes away because we're not touching it. And I really don't want to jump and do the Germans right now. I'm on a roll with this. There's plenty of Germans to come. Plenty, plenty, plenty of Germans. We're not going to do the mortar carriers right now. I don't know who makes these. Altaia, maybe? If you wanted to unscrew them, look what kind of a weird screw you need. It's like a 3-prong screw. So those aren't coming apart. I'm not buying a special tool to get them apart. I can get in there and paint all this stuff. I don't tear things apart and paint them. Look, they're war game models. And as such, these are going to look better than 98% of other war game models anyways. So I'm already giving them a lot more detail than most people do. Yeah, I like this. This is one piece casting. One piece casting on Is the mold the same? There's a shovel there, a jerry can there. I've got stuff to add to the outside of these. That's gonna make these guys shine. Is I've got things to go on the side of them that I got from the bits. Well, I don't want to hand brush the primer on these things. So we're going to have to take some stuff out there to spray paint. It's still dark. Let's glue this truck together for starters. And see, I did not want to start on these pre-paints because I didn't know how my paint job was going to work. I'm very happy with how it's turned out, so I'm ready to just dive all in. So we're going to take these two. This big guy can wait right this second. These three are going to go to the spray booth. This thing could also wait. It's got HVSS, which is rather late. I don't know who makes that. Anybody know who makes this thing? It's got to be like a Fujimi. I think it's a 176 scale. Did Fujimi make a 105 Sherman? I think they did. I don't remember. I used to know all that stuff, but then things happen. And we'll go spray the half tracks also. All right, let's glue this, and the half tracks aren't going to need any cleanup. This is die cast. It doesn't need any cleanup. Yes, it might on the barrel. So let's clean the flash off these and glue the truck together, and we can paint the truck also. All right. We're actually going to do something right now. I got plenty of this olive drab here, right? Let's take this US olive drab, and I'm going to paint some right here next to it. Looks almost the same color. It's funny, here it looks greenish. There it looks like the Vietnam color. And I know they all faded differently and so forth. Oh yeah, that's the Vietnam color. I don't think I want to use that. I could do like one Sherman in that and see how it turns out. It's going to be significantly darker. We'll let that dry. It's funny, I thought this was going to be greenish looking. Good morning, Mr. Harvey. All right, so let's glue this guy together. So that's loose. So is this, apparently. And this is how I got these, as is, so. No steering wheel. Doesn't bother me any. They're War Games models. People need to lighten up. I posted the scores of the DBA events at our the show we just had last weekend. That took a long freaking time to do. That took about 3 hours to do, which should not have taken that long. That's why I put off doing it as long as I do. Normally, I try to post on the same day, and I'm like, I want to do the tanks. I neglected doing them, so had a couple days of tanks and then posted the scores. It took like 3 hours to do. And one of the comments, there's this one guy that's on a tear, about 25 millimeter. Like, that's an odd scale and this, that, and the other. I'm like, people need to loosen up a little bit. It's just a game. If you don't know that 25 and 20, if you can't use 28 millimeter figures in a 25 millimeter scale event, then I think you're living under a rock. It's the same thing, and it's not even my event, so, you know, I'm sure Marty would let other people do that, but they're one and the same. It's the basing for DBA that's important. These 28 millimeter figures are going to use 25 millimeter basing. But, you know, there's the events, the DBA events. Yes, let's work on tanks and talk about DBA, just like the other day we were talking about building tanks, talking about DBA. The other day we were building DBA, talking about tanks. Hey, talk about whatever you want, you know. But, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the first event, we'll go to the show. The very first event we ran was Step Right Up, right? We show up, there's a show about 8:15. The event starts at 9. Our tables aren't up. Our tables didn't get up until like 9:30. So we're like a half hour late starting. And in my haste, supposed to be have a step army. I did not catch that one of the players did not use an army that was step. Not only that, this player won the event. So is it a big deal? Not really. You know, it's just a game. Woody won a little award. It was a new player, or was a new player in our area, and he enjoyed winning that. People make honest mistakes. I show up to the event, right? And I'm going to play my White Huns because they're a step army. No, they're not. They're tropical. Luckily, I had another army with me that was step, my Hungarians, and I played them instead. But I thought my White Huns were step, which they should be. But not according to the rules. So I caught it and used my Hungarians instead, which probably did the best they've ever done before. Which isn't saying a whole lot. I think now they're up to 8 and 13 or something like that. But you know, people make mistakes. I said it several times in the show. It's only cheating if you unwillingly knew, if you specifically knew you were doing something wrong, and were trying to get away with it. If you make an honest mistake, you know, if you set up the terrain wrong, are you cheating? No, you're just human. Shit happens. You know, it's just a stupid game. It's just a stupid game with people all over the stupid world. But I read recently that the problem with everything is there's too many people that are out on a crusade. And it doesn't matter what the crusade is, whether it's a political crusade, a religious one, different rules. Oh, those rules are no good. Only these are any good. Everybody, people that are on a crusade, I just don't want to deal with. You know, it's okay to have strong opinions of things on your own. I certainly do. I am not going to change my mind about certain things, but I also don't need to cram them down somebody's throat, because I'm not going to change somebody's mind. It's not worth the mental calories I'm going to have to expend. But there's a lot of people that don't get that. These wheels are almost like, instead of being in two halves, they're almost off a little bit. So I'm going to do the best I can here. Hopefully not drive you guys crazy with this sound if I haven't already. And then we can move on. Yeah, I don't want to be around people that are on a crusade. It's usually those same people that have a million bumper stickers on their car, you know? If you have a ton of bumper stickers on your car, you probably don't know when to shut up. This is a GMC truck, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Kind of an ugly vehicle. You know what truck I think is actually really good looking? The Dodges that they used for like ambulances. It's a sleek looking car, truck. I think it's a 1.5 ton or something like that. It's a sleek looking vehicle. Now, this has been sitting in storage somewhere. This was part of a collection of a gentleman that's no longer with us. Well, I saw him at shows. I never played a game with him because, I mean, there's so many different games that go to our shows, but... Okay, that goes like that. Test fit before we start gluing stuff. And actually the same company that makes these little value bits, value gear, they actually make out of resin loads that fit in Opel Blitz trucks and US trucks as well. So that might be something that... It's a fuel truck the Germans have to get or something. Since they both use gasoline as opposed to diesel. British Russians use diesel. I guess the British had to use both. Good morning, Kevin. Because some of the vehicles that they got, some of the M4s that they got in the desert, I bet they weren't diesel. So the British at some point had to use both of them. I'm guessing. Hasegawa made in Japan. Yep. My vehicle's made in Japan. Even the tires were made in Japan. That was freaking crazy. first vehicle I've had that's Japanese. It's made in Japan. Every vehicle I've had has always been Japanese. I'm a big fan of that. I think in World War II their vehicles were garbage, but they got good QC now. But never had a vehicle made completely in Japan. Well, that's not true. We had a Mazda 5, a little, almost like a minivan a while ago, and it was all Japanese. Trying to think where the points are here, where it hits. Looks like the suspension all the way across. Okay, so if I do this across the bottom, where are most cars in the UK made? Germany? There's a lot of Audis and stuff like that out there. The Axis power switched to taking over the world by vehicles, I guess. Well, much better that way than the other method those bastards were using. Okay, it looks like some of this is got glue on it or melted or something. You have a South Korean car designed by Germans and built in Turkey. Aha. Car built in Turkey. Only thing that gets here that's made in Turkey that I'm aware of, there's a lot of firearms made in Turkey. And a lot of them seem like they're copies of other firearms. There's a lot of SIG knockoffs and a lot of Beretta knockoffs that are made in Turkey. I've never heard of a car made in Turkey. South Korean car. What was it, a Kia or a... What's the other one? Hyundai. Hyundai and Kia. My phone's Korean. Let's drop some of it back there. What else is made in Turkey that I'm aware of? Oh, you know those, not that I buy them very often, because I don't really buy candy. You know gummy bears, right? There's two. Well, there's probably more than two. But here in the States, there's two. Haribo, whatever the name of those things are, the little gummy bears, right? The little candy. There's some made in Germany, and some are made in Turkey. And if you have to buy them, you have to buy them. Well, you may like the taste of them. I make sure that they're made in Germany because the Turkish ones taste funny. And then I looked into it, and it's because they're halal or something like that. They're not used with, you know, because gelatin is a byproduct of hooves and stuff like that. So I guess they got to make them so that they're religiously compatible. Which, but anyways, they're no good. I don't care for them. So I got to make sure they're not the Turkish ones. Not because they're from Turkey, just because they taste funny. Funny peculiar, not funny haha. Okay, this is free rolling and there's no way to stop that, is there? No. We're going to epoxy the shit out of this when it's time to glue it on the stand. It's been a factory in Turkey to make cars for the European market. It's cheaper than shipping every one of them around, huh? It's just, I find it ridiculous that the US and the UK don't have the best cars on the market. But I would love to buy American vehicles, but I don't dare. I don't care for them at all. I don't care for them at all. It's a shame, but not a fan. I've rented a car and it reminds me frequently. I'm glad I didn't get one of these. I'll buy one made here, but I'm going to write down the serial number. I've been writing down serial numbers of tanks because, unfortunately, the thing that's the worst about American vehicles, in my opinion, is that they have this stupid serial number that you either have to add it on or just forget that it's there. So I've tried to add it on and then cover it up with some grime. You know, it's not perfect. It would have been stenciled. U.S. stuff is, they're real anal retentive about stenciling everything, which looks really nice, but it's a pain if you're trying to do it on yourself. So this one's 303. I'll just use this number, 303 963. When I repaint this one, we'll use the same one. Before they imported them to Europe from India. Would you like to partake in a vehicle? Oh, yes, very much. There are a lot of Indian people in England. I love Indian food. I really do. I like listening to them. I think their accent is very relaxing. Okay, I believe this one does not have machine gun ports drilled in. So we will have to do that. The only Indian products I can think of are here are not anything you would ride in. They're not vehicles. Large amount of Germany's heavy trucks was built by Ford and GM. Nowadays? Just a QC. I like that samurai quality control. Like, car brake, you bring shame on your family. And they got to jump off a cliff or something, you know? I always think about that. You know, stuff goes sideways, but you shouldn't have any major problems on a vehicle in the first, I don't know, 7 years? I mean, that's what I'm used to. You know, you buy a vehicle, you don't have any problems with it for... That's why I lease vehicles. You don't have any problems with them. You got to put gas in them, and yes, you have to do regular maintenance. World War II. Many people here from the Indian subcontinent. Yes, I was kidding. Indian food is Britain's #1. Tasty. I think it's incredible. I don't know what some of the things are called, but I like it a lot. Actually, the whole family likes it a lot. We just never have it. When I go on a cruise, usually the head chef on the cruise line is from India. So they have this little area that I like to call Indian corner, because it's kind of tucked away. And every meal they have Indian dishes, and you get to try them. So I can look at it and go, yeah, I like that, or not like that. I don't know that I've ever had something that I'd say I don't like this. But I'm just funny about weird meats. And a lot of Indian food is vegetarian, so I have no problem. I don't want to eat goat and, you know, I don't like gamey meats. But try to have that every time, that because you don't get to eat that every day. You know, we don't have Indian food everywhere. And if they do have Indian food, a lot of the restaurants are not very appealing to eat at, because they put like zero effort in decor. Like if I eat at a restaurant that's, say, an Asian restaurant, I want it to look like Asia, or take me somewhere, you know, not just here's 4 white walls and enjoy your food, you know. I want it to take me to the place I'm eating. I don't know. Maybe I'm asking too much. No, because there was a place that we stopped one time a couple years ago that was like a British fish and chips place, and it had all kinds of London-like stuff in it, just for ambiance. And if I'm going to eat out, that's what I want, you know. I want to be taken to the place that... I don't know, I'm just a spoiled American. Okay, these guys. Who makes these? You guys know. Are these Altaia? They look like they were models at one point. As you can see the marking here on it. And this is the thing where I have no interest in stripping the paint off this. I'm just going to paint off of them, you know. You make curry 3 or 4 times a week. Excellent. I think it's awesome. The one thing I don't want to eat is I don't want to eat bland food. And Indian food's not bland. So, you know. Not a fan of bland food. All right, we need to make sure we dust these guys before we go and brush them. I actually wish I didn't have so many 76mm gun tanks. I want a 3-to-1 ratio or a 4-to-1 ratio. I know the British use like a 4-to-1 ratio with the Fireflies. In other words, can't have a ton of Fireflies unless you're going to have some M4a3s go with them. Or some Sherman 3s. Don't breathe the dust in. Not that dusty, but. All right, let's look at the turret. I believe the antenna should be here. I'm going to confirm that, because if it is, then there's already a little hole, kind of a little divot there to glue it on. Where's my Sherman book? Here we start an argument. Someone is bound to pitch in the best fish and chips come from Yorkshire. I'm not starting an argument. You guys are starting an argument. I don't care. You mean fish and fries, right? Not fish and chips? Oh, man. How does it go? Two countries divided by one common language? I think that's where the antenna goes. I love this country, but I'm not one of those folks. If it is an American, it's a piece of crap. I'm definitely not one of those people, because like I say it all the time, I don't like that the British used American equipment. And it's not that they're not worthy. I just think that they had their own cool stuff that, you know, although I'm not a fan of the Cromwell at all, or the Comet, but I love Crusaders. And 813s, and are those vehicles the same scale as the Russians? Yes. Close enough. They're one. I think the Russians are all 176th, and some of these are 176 and one are 172nd, and I don't have a problem with it mixing the two. I am going to do so. That's interesting. Somebody's having an antenna on the back. I'm going to put the antenna back here. I'm good with that. So I like the British and British equipment. It's like, you know, taking it. Oh, you guys can't fly Spitfires. You have to fly P-47s or something like that. I mean, the Spitfire is like the most awesome, beautiful plane ever. And see this little ID thing on the roof? Never doing that on a British vehicle. Never. I'm never doing it. It just looks wrong. I know why they did it. It still looks wrong. Put a roundel on there. Like they did in the desert. What am I looking for? I'm looking for sandpaper that's really, really fine. I don't think I have any of it up here. Too fine. We'll see. Yeah, I decided to start with the Americans because nobody starts with the Americans. It's really easy to start, you know, making all the Panzers in the world, but what was that thing that somebody called it? Wearaboo. I'm not a wearaboo. Was that ugly British plane you talk about, the Rock? They called it a Blackburn. And it's ugly as shit. Remember that old helicopter that they used to use on that TV series, Riptide? I believe they called it it was painted the Screaming Mimi on it. It's the plane equivalent of that ugly ass thing. That is an ugly ass helicopter. There are some ugly ass helicopters that were made. This is actually too fine. Well, it's taking some of it off, so that works. Somebody also told me a trick. Look, I get a chance to use it. If you use the back of this, you can use that to scrape off a panel line and not do too much damage to the barrel. I saw that on a modeling site. I guess it's gray plastic underneath. Yeah, not all British planes were pretty, just like all American planes weren't ugly. Many were, but irrespective of how effective they were. As I know Hellcats are really effective. I think they're ugly as shit. I don't like Hellcats. Doesn't matter if they were effective. I don't like how they look. And on top of that, they painted them really unappealing. Like, overall, like, navy gloss. I don't care if it was effective. Obviously it was effective if that's what they went to, but not a fan. Not a fan. The Vickers Wesley was particularly ugly. All right, let me see. Vickers Wellesley. It's definitely the theater I know the least about is the aircraft. Why is that? I've played the least amount of games in that. Oh yeah, that's ugly. You know, it's not out of ugly as much as it's... Yeah, what is that, a light bomber? It's like, we've got two fuselages, what should we do? Oh, just bind them together. Excuse the bad accent, but hey, I do better than anybody in this country. I do better than most actors. Rock was a Blackburn. Well, you guys made up for it with the Spitfire. I think it's just a thing of beauty. And actually, the Hurricane's not bad either. The Hurricane's a pretty good looking plane. Especially the ones they used in the desert. I forget which mark they are. But the ones that had the, was it 20 millimeter cannons on them? To knock out tanks. That's a pretty nimble tank, ground attack aircraft. I don't think it was 40s. I don't think it was a pair of 40s, but might have been. I just don't like the British World War I planes. Honestly, just about everybody's World War I plane is butt ugly. Except the Albatrossin. I like the Albatrossin. And everybody likes Spitfires. Everybody. I think people like Spitfires more than P-51s. I'm not a huge P-51 fan. Look wise. Looks. We're talking about looks, not effectiveness. Let's see if we can get away with taking this off. Because then we kind of don't have to paint this. I didn't paint the tracks on one of these other ones. I just brushed over it. That saved me some time. There's one less thing I got to do. Excellent. And actually it sprayed in there pretty good because I brought in and sprayed it this way and sprayed it this way and really didn't cover anything up. So that was rather nice. The Desert Tank Buster had 240s. Oh, that's badass. The Hurricane 2C had the 420s. You know, either one of those is good for busting stuff. You nail people with a 20 millimeter on the roof. It's going to be curtains for somebody. Albatross V8. You sure you're not thinking about the Fokker? People say the Fokker D7 is a... I don't know. It's about everybody's playing World War I's. Ugly. Let's see. I'm going to take... Nah, I'm not going to take these little nibs off. Because what I've already run into is I've picked up a couple things carelessly and the turret wasn't attached and it fell on the ground, and we don't need to do that, so that's ready for the spray booth. Do these have screws? They do not. Okay, let's take this off as well. Spray booth. Yeah, I don't have a booth. Where's your spray booth? It's right next to the kissing booth. And we'll have some accoutrement that we will put on the back of this to make them each different. Yeah, I like the British with British equipment. It's not like there's some second-rate power or something like that where they've got to use, you know, other people's shit like Finland or something. I thought of Finland because they use hurricanes. Actually, they probably use anything they can get their hands on. I did not want to do this first and then like really unhappy with how my stuff turned out. But I didn't even have a false start where I wasn't happy with. I mean, just I'm flabbergasted how good this turret turned out. Well, that's a testament to whoever made the original of this. Little hinges and everything on there. Nice. And this is just Agrax Earthshade. I think it works pretty well. And my own spin on it, because I like putting my own spin. I literally followed somebody's recipe on YouTube on how to do this, because I wanted to see their end result. I'm like, I like how that turned out, so let me go back and see how they got there. But my own spin on it is, I didn't paint it overall. I still kind of dry brushed it, so I left black in a few places. Not a whole lot, but there's some black. Rickenbacker. joke that had a comedian banned from TV. Oh, now I gotta know what this is. Involved an RAF pilot being chased by a German. Oh, that one, yeah. Yeah, really banned from TV? I don't know how it is there in the UK. And they're a lot more liberal about it. Maybe liberal is the wrong word. They're a lot more letting things go about it than they were before. But man, there is some... I never thought language was a big deal. You know, it's the connotation, how it's done. If it's just, you know, if it's just done from the standpoint of like an exclamation, it really doesn't matter if you use the F word, because it's just done as an that's like putting a big exclamation. You say something and you put a big exclamation point on it. If you're being graphic and talking about what, you know, you're doing to another person, yeah, it's a bit too far. And there's a lot of that. And movie ratings. Movie ratings are weird. And stuff like that. This has got a big old chunk of something here sticking out. Like a paint glob or something. Is bloody considered a bad word over there? Or not really? Or it's just like saying damn. Which, you know, isn't a bad word, as far as I'm concerned. I remember as a kid, oh, that's the worst thing you could say. Bloody something. I'm like, I also think it's very strange for British to use a 76mm gun. It's very strange. I guess they didn't have the 17-pounder out in force, because 17-pounder is freaking awesome. That thing is just awesome. Unbelievably devastating. Probably spelt Messerschmitt wrong too. Oh well. They shouldn't have lost the war, right? Yes, they should have. I'm sympathetic to the World War I Germans. I'm not sympathetic to the World War II Germans. And as a kid, when we used to read about it, ooh, this thing can come apart like that? Interesting. Oh shit, let's take a look inside if this thing pops open. It's not like we can't re-glue it. Hello. Ever wanted to see what's inside one of these? This, look, there's a weight. Shit, let's have some fun. Mad scientist. I'm gonna put it back on, but... And there's some whitening here, almost like it's been super glued. Let's see what we got in here. Wow. Whoop. Let's see what we got inside here. Well, you always want to find out what's inside of these. Now's your chance. There's some kind of a weight in here. I don't know why this top part doesn't want to come out. Anyways, there's some kind of a weight in here. Look at this. Inside here, I wonder if you could melt this down into a bullet. It's worth something. Now it doesn't weigh anything. Look at that. There it is, 1/72nd, according to this. 1/72nd, M4a1 76W. The W means wet stowage. Neat. The other one come apart? Oh, I probably shouldn't do that. That wasn't good. So I had this laying sideways on my computer, my laptop, and I'm like, man, this is heavy. When I go to pull it off, there's either something in the computer that's magnetic or something in here that's, I don't think this is a magnet, is it? No. The magnet in the computer was pulling it down. Let me not do that again. That could have really effed up my computer. Wow. No, there it is. I think this is Altaia. You guys know what this is? Is the Sherman with the rocket launcher still an M4? The Calliope? I don't know. I mean, it is an M4. I just don't know which version it was. I don't know much about the Calliope, other than they were models all over the place as a kid. I remember seeing it. Okay, let's put this thing back. It may not go in there as planned, so. Now you know what's inside of one of these. It's fun, man. It's an exploration game. It's got to be a lot more fun than watching me paint 15mm shit. It takes forever to do. It's not that I'm not going to play 15mm. It's just nice to mix it up a little bit. This is my first thing I was really into, was World War II. So it's nice to get back to some of it. may not be able to get this back in here. That's what you get for taking it apart. Yeah, blow it out your ass. I'm having fun, damn it. It opened itself for me. Invited me inside. And I'm going to stop there. Just going to get into trouble. If I keep going with that. There we go. Right. Now you know what's inside of one of these. Wish I'd bought more of these things when they were more affordable. You could get these things for like $10, but I'll be honest with you. There's a guy on there that's why do I say that? I think it's just habit. I'm never dishonest with you guys. Sometimes honesty gets me in trouble, but there's a guy from Portugal. His name is João. I think that's how you say his last name. I speak Spanish, not Portuguese. The language split happened hundreds of years ago, and I can't pronounce their stuff. Peixoto? I don't know how you pronounce an X in Portuguese. Anyways, that joker is prolific, and the stuff that he has painted for rapid fire, and he's on YouTube. It just, I'm like, man, if that guy can get that much stuff done, I need to get this stuff done. So he was instrumental, whether or not he realizes it, in me kind of a renewed interest in this. So I'm blaming him. But I'm going to try gluing this stuff with this. But I'm like, I got to do something with these guys. And if Mitch gives me any crap, it's his fault for recommending some World War II movies and getting my juices going again. Purpose other than to add weight to the model? I don't know. Maybe it's a hidden surprise. It's like the pearl in the... I don't know. Honestly, so a couple things about weight. If the model doesn't weigh anything and you fumble it and it falls on the ground, which unfortunately we all do, it doesn't weigh enough to damage itself. So you're probably okay. This weighs so much it'll end up crushing itself. However, when you pick up something that is plastic like this, it doesn't weigh anything. If you look at this stud, this thing, you drop this on your foot and you're not going to enjoy it. And this thing is about the heaviest thing I own. I don't know what's in here, but I think that has lead, so let's wash our hands. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I feel better about it. I got scared about that. I still call all these miniatures lead, even though they're really white metal. I don't think this is going to glue down, which explains why there's super glue marks. But I dropped this thing on the ground yesterday. And it landed right on the turret, and the 50 cal went flying. And it's somewhere here. I don't fumble things very often, so I get really annoyed when it happens. All right. Let's glue this bitch together. All right. This one's ready to go to the spray market. So I'm not going to cut these little nibs. Normally I would do that so I could just sit it down instead of having to find it. I've had a couple turrets fall on the ground unintentionally. Remember, my 15mm stuff doesn't have things that can fall off of it. So there's also the Guards Armored Division Shermans with the RAF rocket rails welded to the turrets. Oh, I didn't know about that. The Guards, the all-seeing eye. Speaking of guards, when I think of the Guards Armored, I think of Market Garden. And when I think of Market Garden, I think of this one vehicle that was not in use in Normandy. I don't think they used these guys in Normandy. And it's a very poor model of it. It's called an Archer. And it is a Valentine chassis backwards. And how are we doing on the light? Okay. That's good. So we're going to paint this up for a unit in Market Garden. So I had this old game by 360 called, well, it's called Market Garden. But I went through and wrote down all the units are in it, and you could see a little icon, basically what vehicle was in it. So you could see whether they had Shermans or whatever. But the Archers were only in one unit, and it was attached to 30th Corps. It's at the Corps level, and it was a unit of these Archers. So I'm going to paint it like that. Which the really cool thing about British vehicles is they had really good markings on there. Their unit markings are really, I like them a lot. Better than the boring American shit, or even more boring Russian stuff. So, okay, so there's a little bit of light out there. I'm going to take this and these Shermans. What other Shermans do we want to do? And we'll spray them all. Then I'll let them dry. I'm ready to do the 105. This is not a really big priority for me. I also don't know how in the hell I'm going to get that out from underneath. There's half of a 50 on there. It's broken. Oh, this just sits on the top. I'll tell you what. I'm going to go ahead and clean this thing up, and we'll do it as well. And we're gonna just take the 50 off. Wargaming models, folks. Wargaming models. He's going to look 100 times better than most things you see on the wargaming table. At least that's my intention is. So I found out an interesting thing about mud guards like this. According to spec, they were delivered with the mud guards, and frequently they were just taken off because it's just sheet metal that just gets all bent to crap, you know. See, can I take this off safely and then put it back on? No. All right, we're going to leave it be. We're going to leave it be and spray with it on there. Okay, this needs the barrel drilled out. That's a tiny little thing that makes a huge difference in the look. We're going to start this off with this. thing I don't like about Market Garden is it has a lot of German units I don't care to model. I'm not a big fan of doing SS stuff. And I'm not a fan of doing Luftwaffe stuff. And both of those were kind of important in Market Garden. Though I've never done SS camo smocks. Because I didn't have the skill set before to do it. I may try that at some point, but I don't like making specific SS stuff because those guys were real dicks. I play them in a scenario. I just don't want to celebrate them. And I got pretty thick skin. But I'm not going out of my way to paint those guys. Okay, this is an antenna that's broken. Let's drill this out. Let's do the same thing. Let's do this to get a foothold. That even because we need to kind of get in the middle here. Go. Now, you can have this in the center. There we go. I'm gonna punt on this thing because there's some details on here that I may want to add stuff to it. I don't want to do that after the fact. I'm gonna punt on him. What else do we have? I guess that's it. Get the fireflies done. We're probably gonna fix this up a little bit. It's definitely painted. I actually bought Humbrol paint specifically for this to get the right shade. This is one of my least favorite figure manufacturers in this scale, Britannia. I don't mind their vehicles, but they are kind of rough. Here's a Britannia Panther compared to that. I hate their figures. got some nice squares in it. Which, man, this thing is dusty as shit. Did stuff come off? Yeah, but I'm not a fan of Britannia. But here's a Firefly. I even made my attempt many years ago to do desert rat stuff on there. Now I just use decals. Anyhow, I need to fix it up. Fix it up mainly by weathering it. There's nothing else wrong with it, but I like that color green. See, it's significantly different. British color looks better. The British have a habit of taking any American kit and making it look better, in my opinion. So, all right, let's get Firefly out of here. That's a different thing. Okay, these guys are done. We're gonna get a little box and take these guys to the spray area out there. This should work. What's in here? The truck, this guy, both of these, both turrets. We'll leave the half tracks for later. Let's do all the tanks. Get Archer out of here. And that's all the American stuff that I have, which is plenty. Plenty for a skirmish game, but wouldn't mind having a couple of M4a3 Stuarts and a couple M8 armored cars, maybe an M20. Other than that, I don't need any more US vehicles. Maybe another truck or so. So, okay, 7 of you guys, I'm going to pause this. I will be out and spray. And gonna make any Pershings? Probably not. This is just way too late. If I gotta make a Pershing, I gotta do stupid stuff like Yag Tiger. I don't even have a King Tiger. Not that I need one. I had a model of one and sold it. I don't have any King Tigers. I don't have anything that has an 88L71. I don't have no German stuff that has that big, the barn door 88. None. It's unnecessary. I don't have any Chafies either. I'm not opposed to doing them. I'm just, at this point, I don't have any. So, I'm not opposed to getting one after I have all this stuff. I don't have any tank destroyers. Don't have any Hellcats, M10s. So, that's probably something else that wouldn't be bad. A howitzer motor carriage, M8, HMC. But I'm not buying more stuff until I use the stuff that I have. So, okay. I'm going to be right back, and we'll continue. Okay, I don't want to leave you guys hanging. I've actually got to take care of something. Nothing bad. But I got to go run an errand. So we're going to cut this one off. We'll probably be back on later today. And the good news is those things will be sprayed so we can start working on them. But anyways, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and talking World War II stuff. And we should be back on later today. Okay, folks, have a good beginning of Saturday.